I'm Ava Sterling, and on the coldest November night I can remember, I found myself standing barefoot on the front porch of the house I thought I'd grow old in, watching my clothes explode out the door like someone had ripped open a suitcase full of my life. Shirts, jeans, sweaters, everything I owned flew across the yard, scattering over the frost-covered grass as if the universe itself had decided to spit me out. The porch lights flicked on. My mom, Linda, stood in the doorway, face twisted with fury I had never seen aimed at me before. "Get out, Ava! You're done here!" she shouted, voice cracking like a whip. My dad, Mark, appeared behind her, blocking the doorway with his body like he was defending the house from an intruder instead of his own daughter. His fists were clenched, his jaw locked so tight it looked painful. "You heard your mother. Go!" Behind him, half hidden in the hallway, stood my 17-year-old brother, Chase. His hand clung to Mom's arm like he needed protection, but his eyes, those eyes were lit with something colder than the wind burning my cheeks. A quiet victory, a triumph he wasn't even trying to hide. Just that morning, he had asked me to make extra pancakes. Just that morning, he had laughed at some stupid meme he showed me on his phone. Just that morning, we felt like a family. Now? Now I was the villain in a story I didn't even know existed. I stepped forward, hugging my arms around myself. "Mom, Dad, what is going on? What did I do? Just talk to me." Dad didn't answer. He just shoved a cardboard box at my feet so hard the corners scraped my ankle. "Take your crap and go before this gets worse." From across the street, a neighbor's porch light flicked on. Then another. Phones lifted. Recording. Streaming. Whispers drifted across the yard as the freezing air wrapped around me like punishment. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt unreal, like I was watching someone else's nightmare play out in front of me. I kept waiting for someone to yell "cut," for someone to tell me it was a misunderstanding, that everything would go back to normal. But no one did. And before I go any further, if you've ever had your family suddenly turn on you, or if someone you trusted twisted reality so convincingly that everyone believed them over you, please share your story in the comments. I mean it. I read everything you write, and you're not alone. And if you want more real stories like this, hit subscribe, because what comes next? It shocked even me. I bent down to pick up the box, hands shaking. My heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the neighbors' murmuring. One thought kept looping in my brain over and over. What did he tell them? What lie was big enough, ugly enough to make my family throw me away in a single night? Chase shifted behind my parents, and for the briefest second, our eyes locked. His lips twitched upward, just a hint. A smirk, meant only for me. And in that icy moment, I realized something terrifying. Whatever this was, whatever story he had spun, he wanted me gone. Not hurt, not punished, erased. If you'd met us 4 years ago, you'd never believe the scene on that porch. You'd never believe that my family, could look at me with such disgust. Back then, we were the kind of picture you'd find in a cheesy Hallmark ad. Warm, close, completely inseparable. I was 21 when everything changed. Fresh out of Northern Arizona University with a degree in interior design, more ambition than experience, and a heart that genuinely believed family was everything. My Aunt Marianne, my mom's older sister, passed away that year after a long battle with cancer. And she left me something I never expected. Her 2-story home just outside Flagstaff. A cozy cedar-sided place with a porch swing and a backyard that sloped toward a line of pines. It wasn't just a house. It felt like an inheritance of trust, a place meant for beginnings, not endings. Meanwhile, my parents and Chase were crammed into a small one-bedroom rental in Phoenix. My dad's construction jobs weren't steady, my mom's bank hours kept getting cut, and Chase was bouncing between schools because they kept moving to cheaper apartments. I remember sitting with them at a diner off I-17 over cheap pizza slices when I said the words that changed all our lives. Move in with me. There's room for all of us. My parents stared at me like I'd offered them a winning lottery ticket. Chase practically launched himself across the booth to hug me. 2 weeks later, a U-Haul pulled up, and suddenly our lives felt like a home-cooked meal served at the perfect temperature. We found our rhythm almost instantly. Weeknights meant family dinners at the long oak table I refinished myself, staining the wood while Dad teased that I hadn't inherited Aunt Marianne's patience. Mom chopped vegetables, humming to the radio while Chase set out mismatched plates without being asked. On weekends, we piled into Dad's aging SUV and headed toward the mountains. Picnics, hikes, or just wandering through the pines until Chase found elk tracks to follow. He used to yell, "Sis!" across the parking lot, running toward me with that huge grin that still had a bit of crooked charm from his braces. I'd ruffle his hair and promise hot chocolate afterward, and sometimes he'd lean against me on the drive home half asleep with sunburned cheeks. I worked upstairs in a makeshift office, laptop glowing late into the night. Chase knocked constantly asking for help with algebra or English essays. He'd slump into the chair complaining about teachers, and I'd break things down for him with sketches and scratch paper until he finally got it. He used to run downstairs afterwards just to brag to Mom. "Ava's basically a genius. Saved my grade again." His friends came over for barbecues, taking over the basement for gaming nights. I'd hear the laughter through the vents and smile, happy they finally had space to be teenagers. When his sneakers split at the seams, I bought him a new pair. When his gaming headset broke, I surprised him with a better one for his birthday. I even paid his phone bill so he wouldn't lose service midway through school projects. My parents constantly told me how grateful they were. Dad clapped me on the shoulder after every freelance project I finished. Mom told coworkers at church how responsible I was, how lucky she felt to have a daughter who stepped up. And I believed it. I believed we were building something solid, something that would last. Looking back now, I wonder if those moments were real, or if I was the only one who thought they were. But at the time, it felt perfect, like I'd finally given my family the life they deserved. Before everything cracked, before Chase began to shift, before the first lies were whispered in rooms I wasn't invited into. At first, the shift was so small I almost missed it. A sigh here, a slam door there, a cold shoulder that melted the next morning. I chalked it up to teenage mood swings and left it at that. Chase had just turned 16, and I figured hormones were doing what hormones do best, turning a normal kid into a walking emotional landmine. But then the asks started. Not the usual, "Can I have $20 for a movie?" No, these were different, bigger, sharper. They came with an edge. "Ava, everyone on the soccer team is getting new cleats. I need a pair too." "Ava, my friends are going to a concert in Phoenix. Tickets are $100. Can you spot me?" "Ava, I need this gaming pass. Everyone has it." He said need the way most people say oxygen. At first I gave in, like I always did. I had the house, I had the stable freelance income, I had the adult responsibilities. And he was still my little brother, the kid who once cried when he lost his favorite hoodie. It felt natural to help him out. But the asks kept growing. $50 turned into $100. $100 became $200. And then $300 for a weekend trip with friends. One afternoon, I finally told him no. I said it gently, softening every word. "Chase, I'm happy to help with school or essentials, but I can't fund every trip or hobby. You need to start pitching in, maybe a part-time job this summer." He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just stared at me like I'd said something obscene. Then he walked away and slammed his door so hard it rattled the picture frames in the hallway. I thought that was the end of it, just another teenage tantrum. God, I was naive. That night, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. Arms crossed, disappointment etched into her face like she'd rehearsed it. "Why would you say something so cruel to your brother?" "What?" I blinked. "I wasn't cruel. I just told him I can't keep paying for luxuries." She shook her head like I'd personally insulted her motherhood. "He said you told him he didn't deserve anything nice." My stomach dropped. "Mom, I never said that." But her mind was already made up. Dad overheard and came into the room with an exhausted sigh. "Chase mentioned you've been tense lately. Are you stressed with work?" Translation: we believe him. I wanted to scream. Instead, I swallowed everything and nodded. "I'm fine, really." That became the pattern. Chase would say one thing when we were alone, short answers, eyes glued to his phone, avoiding me like I was contagious, but the moment Mom walked in, he transformed. His shoulders would slump, his voice soften, and he'd act like every breath was a struggle. "Ava doesn't want me around anymore. Ava snaps at me over chores. Ava hid the TV remote so I'd miss my show." Stupid, petty things, but enough to sow doubt. I'd walk into the living room and hear Mom whispering to him, "She's under pressure, don't take it personally." He'd nod solemnly, casting me a wounded glance like he was some martyr for family unity. Once I caught him smirking the moment Mom turned her back. It felt like being gaslit in my own home, a slow drip of poison I didn't notice until it was everywhere, on my pillow, in my coffee, in the way my parents looked at me. Dad started asking pointed questions during dinner. "Chase said you ignored his texts all weekend. Is everything okay?" But when I pulled out my phone to show the empty message thread, he waved it off. He's sensitive right now. Right. Sensitive. Sensitive kids don't calculate emotional detonations with the precision of a surgeon. The lies started stacking faster. He told Mom I mocked his grades to his friends. He told Dad I refused to drive him to practice. He even claimed I hid his jersey before a big game. Every complaint was paired with a perfectly timed tremble or a single dramatic tear. And every time Mom defended him harder, Dad got colder. The house felt different. Conversations stopped when I walked in, and suddenly I was the outsider in a home I paid the mortgage on. I tried bridging the distance. Some mornings I'd knock on his door with 2 cups of coffee. "Want to grab breakfast before school?" He didn't even look up. No. Other nights I suggested movie marathons like we used to do. "Pass," he'd mutter. Something inside him had flipped, and I didn't know why. Or maybe I didn't want to admit what I was beginning to see. Chase wasn't drifting, he wasn't confused, he wasn't overwhelmed. He was plotting. And all the warmth we once shared, every laugh, every holiday, every hike, was being rewritten into a story where I was the villain. A story he controlled. A story my parents were already believing. A story that was about to get much, much darker. I still remembered the exact sound the house made that night. The quiet hum of the heater, the ticking of the hallway clock, the soft scrape of my keys against the front door as I walked in. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing hinted that my entire world was about to collapse in a single conversation. I stepped into the living room and stopped cold. The lights were dim except for the lamp by the window. My mom sat stiffly on the couch, clutching a tissue like it was the only thing keeping her together. My dad stood behind her, arms crossed, jaw tight. Chase sat between them, hoodie sleeves pushed up, face angled away, like he couldn't bear to look at me. "Ava," Dad said, voice low and dangerous. "Close the door. We need to talk." The kind of words no one ever wants to hear. I let my work bag slip from my shoulder and fall to the floor. My heartbeat hammered in my ears, but I forced myself to walk forward. "What's going on?" Mom lifted her trembling hand and pointed at Chase's exposed forearm. "A deep purple bruise, perfect, centered, dramatic, stretched across the skin. My eyes widened. "What happened to you?" Chase didn't look at me. He just swallowed hard and whispered, voice cracking in all the right places. "Last night, when Mom and Dad were at the neighbor's barbecue, you pushed me down the stairs." My mind blanked. "What?" "Chase, no, I didn't push you. I wasn't even downstairs." Mom let out a sob like she had been holding it in for hours. "He came to me shaking, Ava. He said you snapped at him, screamed at him, and shoved him." Dad pulled out his phone, thumb moving quickly. "Listen," he said. He hit play. My voice flooded the room, rage-filled, ugly, distorted. "You're useless, Chase. Stay out of my space." Then a thud, a yelp, silence. I felt the blood drain from my face. That wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I, I, I didn't do that. I mean, that's not me. It's been edited. There's something off with the audio. Stop, Dad barked. "Stop lying." My mouth opened, but nothing came out. My body couldn't form words fast enough to defend itself. Chase finally looked up, eyes glistening, lower lip trembling. "Why would I lie about something like this? I just wanted help with my English essay. I didn't think. Mom grabbed him, pulling him into her arms. "It's okay, baby. We won't let her hurt you again." Her voice broke. Mine did too. "Mom," I said softly, stepping closer, "please. Chase knows this isn't true. I never touched him. Look at the stairs, they're carpeted. Look at the bruise. It's too perfect, too dark around the edges." Dad cut me off, voice raised. "Are you calling your brother a liar?" I felt like the air had been punched out of my lungs. "No, I'm saying something doesn't add up. Please, just look at the facts." I scrambled for my phone. "We've heard enough," Dad thundered. Chase flinched dramatically, burying his face into Mom's sweater like my voice alone could hurt him. Over her shoulder, he shot me the smallest, coldest smirk. A smirk that said everything. A smirk that said this was orchestrated. I felt the room tilt. "I didn't do this," I whispered. It came out so weak, I barely recognized my own voice. Mom wouldn't look at me. Dad shook his head like he was ashamed to be in the same room with me. Chase sniffled loudly, perfectly timed. Dad stepped forward and grabbed a suitcase from the closet. He threw it at my feet. "Pack your things. You're leaving tonight." I froze. "This is my house." Mom's voice turned to steel. "It might be your name on the deed, but you don't deserve to stay here if this is how you treat family." Chase clung to her again, trembling so convincingly you'd think he might faint. I begged. I begged harder than I've begged for anything in my life. "Just give me 10 minutes. We can check the security camera." "It wasn't recording," Chase mumbled quickly. Dad waved it off. "We don't need cameras. We believe him." 6 words. 6 words strong enough to shatter everything I thought I knew about love. I packed in silence. My hands shook so badly I dropped half my clothes on the floor. Chase followed me upstairs, lingering in the doorway. When Mom and Dad went downstairs, he leaned in, voice dripping with venom. "You should have just bought the car." Then he walked away. Downstairs, Dad blocked the hallway. "The garage keys stay." I handed them over like I was surrendering pieces of myself. The wheels of my suitcase rattled against the porch steps. Snow crunched under my boots. The house, my house, glowed behind me like a lighthouse. I no longer had permission to enter. Mom stood in the doorway holding Chase. Chase lifted a hand, giving me a little wave. A victory wave. And then The lights clicked off, leaving me alone in the dark. I drove without knowing where I was going, just following the empty roads until my eyes blurred and my chest felt too tight to breathe. I ended up in the parking lot of a 24-hour grocery store, gripping the steering wheel like it could keep me from falling apart. My phone buzzed nonstop, but every notification was the same. Voicemail full. Can't leave message. Call declined. I wasn't calling for forgiveness. I wasn't calling to beg. I just wanted to understand how my family, my own blood, could throw me away so easily. But there were no answers coming from that house. So I drove to the only place I could, Jenna Brooks' loft apartment downtown. Jenna had been my best friend since freshman year of college, the kind of person who would rip her scrub top in half if you needed a bandage. She worked night shifts at Flagstaff Medical, so she was just getting home when I knocked. One look at my face, and she didn't ask a single question. She just opened her arms. I collapsed into them. She made tea, pulled out the old pull-out couch, and wrapped me in a blanket that smelled like lavender detergent. I didn't sleep. Not really. I closed my eyes, but every time I drifted off, I saw Chase's smirk and Mom's tearful eyes and Dad's voice saying, "We believe him." By morning, I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything soft inside me. Jenna slid a mug of coffee toward me. "You're not crazy," she said gently. "This doesn't add up. You know that." I nodded, staring at the steam rising from the cup. I didn't trust my voice to hold steady. "Then stop letting them control the story," she said gently. "Fight back." The words hit me like a defibrillator. Fight back. Not scream, not beg, fight. That afternoon, I opened a notebook and started writing. Dates, incidents, conversations, every moment when things had shifted, every lie Chase had told, every withdrawal from the joint account used for groceries and utilities. What started as a few bullet points turned into pages. Then pages turned into stacks. By day 3, the notebook was thick enough to injure someone with. But I needed more than notes. I needed expertise. So I searched online for private investigators in Arizona. Most looked sketchy. Stock photos of men in trench coats with magnifying glasses like it was 1952. But one name kept popping up in forums about family fraud and inheritance disputes. Thomas Reed, private investigator, former police detective, known for uncovering digital manipulation and domestic deception cases. I emailed him everything. My eviction, the audio, the photo, the accusations. I expected a 3-day wait. He replied in 4 hours. "Meet me tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring all documents. You're not the first victim of family manipulation. And you won't be the last." The next morning, his office looked exactly like the kind of place where the truth gets excavated. File boxes stacked to the ceiling, old coffee mugs beside monitors filled with code. He listened quietly as I spoke, occasionally jotting notes with military precision. "This wasn't emotional conflict," he said finally. "This was strategy. Your brother isolated you, created a narrative, then staged evidence. Classic triangulation combined with digital fraud." Hearing someone analyze my trauma like a case study should have hurt, but weirdly, it steadied me. Thomas requested access to the joint account, screenshots of texts, and the original audio clip. Then he leaned back, eyes sharp. "You're not powerless. Your parents believed the performance, but courts don't care about performances. They care about evidence." He handed me a card. "You'll also need a lawyer." Enter attorney Claire Donovan, a sharp, no-nonsense real estate lawyer recommended by one of my former design clients. Her office overlooked the pines along Route 66, warm sunlight pouring in behind her. I told her everything. She read the deed, then looked up. Ava, the house is legally and solely yours. They had no right to evict you. And if your brother forged evidence, that's a crime. We'll build a case. For the first time in weeks, something inside me clicked back into place. Not hope, not yet, but resolve. Cold, clear, sharp. The kind of resolve that grows from ashes. Because if Chase wanted a war, I was finally ready to fight one.
Thomas Reed didn't waste time. 2 days after our first meeting, he called me back to his office. When I walked in, the blinds were half drawn against the afternoon Arizona sun, and a thick manila folder sat waiting on his desk like a verdict. "Let's start with the money," he said. He opened the folder and printouts fanned across the desk. Bank statements, timestamps, vendor names. The joint credit card account we used strictly for groceries, utilities, and household expenses had been drained. "Over 4 months," Thomas said, tapping the pages with his pen, "your brother charged nearly $14,000 without authorization." My breath caught. Gaming platforms alone account for $4,000. Skins, battle passes, VIP access. Another $3,000 on sneakers, limited edition drops. He never wore half of them. And here, he slid another sheet forward, a $2,000 down payment at Desert Valley Auto. Custom rims. Timestamp? 2 hours after you refused to help him buy the Jeep. It felt like swallowing ice. And that's not all. Thomas clicked his computer, projecting a text thread on the screen. "Your attorney pushed through a subpoena for his cell records. This is from the night they threw you out." The message glowed against the dim room. "Sis out. House going on market next week. Jeep first. Downtown condo later." Another. "Easy. Mom falls apart whenever I cry." Another. "We'll split the profit. No curfew." My stomach twisted. He'd planned everything. He wasn't spiraling. He was calculating. Thomas pulled up the infamous photo next, a close-up of the bruise on Chase's arm. He enlarged the image until the pixels blurred, then opened the metadata. "Edited in Facetune," he said flatly. "Timestamp? 8:59 p.m., 1 hour before your parents came home from the barbecue." He zoomed in along the edges, separating color layers so I could see what he saw. Smoothing tools, paint strokes, a feathered mask where the bruise faded too perfectly into the skin. Then he played the audio. My voice yelling, the thud, the yelp. Only now, he slowed it to 25% speed. He said, "Listen." At normal speed, I had missed it. But here, the splice was obvious, an unnatural echo, a microsecond gap like someone had stitched 2 recordings together. "This wasn't done professionally," Thomas added, "likely with a phone app. Voice blend, maybe. Took him 10 minutes. He overlaid the waveform patterns in red. The cuts glowed like open wounds. My hands trembled on my lap, not from fear this time, but from rage. Rage finally given form. "Your attorney's joining," Thomas said. And a moment later, Claire Donovan appeared on the monitor via video call, her expression razor-sharp, businesslike. "Ava, the evidence is overwhelming. Financial motive, digital forgery, fraudulent injury claims. And since the house is solely yours, they have no legal right to be there. If they attempt to sell, that's felony-level fraud. If they altered the locks, that's trespassing." I swallowed. "So, what now?" Claire lifted a stack of documents into the frame. "We prepare for confrontation, public enough to eliminate manipulation, controlled enough to keep you safe. You need to present them with the evidence. I'll file the paperwork immediately after." The idea made my chest tighten. Face them? After everything? But then, I remembered Chase's smirk, Mom's sobs aimed at the wrong person, Dad's voice filled with conviction as he told me they believed him. Yes, I could face them now. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Have you reflected?
Chase is willing to give you a second chance. A second chance. As if I was the one needing forgiveness. I stared at the message for a long minute before typing back, "Meet me at Copper Ridge Diner, Saturday, 7 p.m. Come alone." She responded instantly. "Okay." Saturday arrived with a cold wind and a heavy sky. Copper Ridge was packed. Families, hikers, college kids grabbing late dinners. Perfect. Too public for theaters, too open for lies. I took a corner booth where I could see 3 angles of the room. I laid Thomas's folder on the table, tabs labeled, evidence organized. My heart thud hard enough I felt it behind my ribs. Mom walked in at 6:98, shoulders tense, eyes darting. She looked smaller than I remembered, older. She sat across from me. "Thank you for meeting." I pushed the folder toward her. "Read." She opened it, and everything inside her broke, piece by piece. The charges, the text screenshots, the Facetune metadata, the audio splice analysis. Her hand flew to her mouth. He told me, Ava, Before she could finish, the door to the diner banged open. Chase stormed in. Hoodie half-zipped, eyes wild with panic, breath fast. He grabbed the papers off the table, scattering some across the floor. "This is fake. She photoshopped all of this." A group of college students nearby lifted their phones, recording. I stayed seated, my voice calm and deadly steady. "Go ahead, Chase. Tell everyone why you edited bruises onto your arm, why you cloned my voice, why you tried to sell my house." His mask cracked. "I did it because you're stingy, because you had everything and I deserved a cut." Gasps spread across the diner. Mom covered her face and sobbed. I slid the final document, a legally prepared eviction notice, across the table toward her. "You have 30 days to move out." Chase lunged for the folder again, but a server stepped in, followed by a security guard. Mom didn't defend him this time. They escorted him out as he yelled, and every phone in the diner caught it all. By the time I walked out of Copper Ridge Diner, the truth wasn't hidden anymore. It was everywhere. And Chase's lies were collapsing exactly the way they deserved to. In the weeks after the diner blew up, everything unfolded with a strange, steady rhythm, like dominoes falling exactly where they were always meant to land. Mom and Dad moved out quietly. No dramatic goodbye, no apology, not even a text. Just a short message from Mom saying, "We'll figure things out." She had lost her job at the credit union after HR saw the viral clips. Reputational concerns, they said. Dad's construction crew avoided him. Group chats muted him. Lunch breaks got quieter. And Chase? Well, Chase faced consequences he never imagined. His school suspended him for conduct unbecoming. His coach benched him indefinitely. Counseling scouts stopped calling. Counseling appointments became mandatory twice a week. The Jeep he dreamed of? Gone. The downtown life he bragged about? Gone. The social circle he flexed online? Gone the moment their parents' lies unraveled publicly. I didn't take joy in watching any of that. Not really. It wasn't triumph, it was closure. A kind of quiet justice that didn't come with fireworks, but with clarity. I changed the house locks, installed new cameras, painted the upstairs hallway, and replanted the garden bed out back. It felt like reclaiming little pieces of myself, one screw, one seed, one fresh coat of paint at a time. The house didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt like mine again. But I won't lie. Some nights I sat on the front steps and wondered how a family could fracture so easily, how love could get twisted into something sharp enough to cut through bone, how I missed people who never really saw me to begin with. Then one morning, as sunlight hit the pine trees just right, I finally understood something. Blood doesn't define family. Behavior does. Loyalty does. Truth does. Blind trust isn't love. Real love pays attention. Real love asks questions before it takes sides. So if you're listening to this and you've been betrayed by family, by someone you trusted, by someone you would have sacrificed everything for, just know this: you're not alone, and you're not broken. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me your story. And if this touched you, hit like, subscribe, and share it. Because someone out there needs to hear that walking away isn't weakness. It's survival. And for the first time in a long time, I feel free.